Welcome to Leading Through People Best Practices. I'm your host, Hank Boyer, and today we're discussing behavioral-based interviewing. Tell me, does this sound familiar? You hire someone by the name of Jim to work in your company. You went through an extensive interview process. Multiple people interviewed him, multiple interviews. You did background checks, you did reference checks. You really did due diligence on this candidate. So Jim shows up for his first day at work, and all of a sudden you're scratching your head saying, is this the same person that we interviewed? He doesn't seem like the same person that we interviewed. What are we missing? The real question with Jim is, when you interviewed him, did you get to know the real person, the real Jim, the same Jim that would show up to work every single day? This is a common problem. This is what many interviewers do when they go to interview someone like Jim. They ask a series of questions like this. Are you a hard worker? Do you work well under pressure? Can you prioritize a complex task? And of course, the candidate answers affirmatively. And so as the interview goes through this checklist of areas that she wants to learn about, she's asking these questions, and it seems like Jim checks most of the boxes. And so she reports back and says, hey, I think Jim can probably do the job. And so eventually you make the hiring decision. The problem is that this is a very ineffective way to learn about whether or not Jim is qualified for the position. First of all, a yes-no answer means that you learn absolutely nothing of consequence about Jim when you interview him. And none of the questions that Shanna is asking is going to give her much more information than him saying yes to that. Secondly, it assumes that she and Jim share the same exact definition of hard worker, and that's unlikely. Most people have different frames of references for what they mean by a quality or a characteristic or a situation. We all know that from our miscommunications at work. It also means that he might think he's a hard worker, but he's really not. And so you have that challenge to overcome. You see, many of these challenges, in fact, all of these challenges can be properly addressed by doing something called behavioral-based interviewing. So let me define behavioral-based interviewing. It says the very best predictor of what someone can do is what they've done previously in similar situations. Now, knowing what to do and actually doing it are two very different things. Let's suppose you've got to go through surgery and you've got a choice of two surgeons. One just graduated from the best medical school in the country, #1 in his or her class, has watched every video available on how to perform the operation, has read everything that's been written about it, but has never actually done it. And then another surgeon that's an average surgeon who's done 1,500 of these operations and done them successfully. Who are you going to choose to operate on you? The person that knows what to do or the person that has done it? You see, you're always going to go with the person that has done it. Behavioral-based interview questions really help you to reveal what the person has done in the past situation. It's not what they think they do or a hypothetical, it's what they've actually done. And since behavioral-based interview questions allow the person to use whatever frame of reference, they can tap into their entire background of experiences that they've had to give you a good answer. You see, the interviewing best practice is always to ask behavioral-based questions instead of hypothetical ones. We suggest using something called SESRV. It's a format that will let you structure behavioral interview questions. Let me explain. Remember that you want to understand what they've actually done in the past. So the first thing you want to do is have them define in their words the quality, characteristic, or action so that you have a full understanding of what it means. Remember when Shauna asked, are you a hard worker? You have them define what that means. And so the first thing you're going to do is say, please give me a working definition of what hard work means to you. That's your setup question. The next question is, tell me an example. Tell me about a time or give me an example of a time when you were required to work really hard on something. What was the background, the circumstances? Then how did you go about dealing with the situation? This is really relevant background that you need to have so that you can understand their definition in context. And the fact is, you're going to learn so much more than if they were just a hard worker as you get them to explain the circumstance and background and situation. But continue on. Tell me what happened. How did it turn out in the very end? And more importantly, what did you learn? You see, these 4 steps in the SESRV formula are going to reveal a whole lot more than whether the person is just a hard worker. They're going to tell you about their thought process. They're going to give you an idea of their communications capabilities. They're going to give you a sense of how they organize and prioritize and deal with different situations. It really gives you a peek into who they are. And then the V in the SESRV formula is verify. So tell me, if you had to go through this process again, what would you do differently based on what you learned? This question is terrific because it tells you how the person learns. And you really want to know that in today's fast-changing environment, how somebody learns. So here's your challenge. Build your own set of SESRV questioning sequences. And I've given you 3 examples of questions that you can use, but pick your own, ones that are relevant to the jobs and situations and positions that you're hiring for. Remember, you want to learn who your candidate really is and what he or she knows and has done by using a SESRV behavioral-based interviewing question. Now you got to practice this. It's going to feel a little bit awkward at first, but practice until you can do it conversationally. When you can do this conversationally, you put the candidate at ease, they open up, they're talking about their favorite subject, which is them. You're giving them the opportunity to express themselves in a way that they can sort of share their own story with you. That's really important. Now, if you liked what you learned today in Leading Through People Best Practices and want to learn more, then take a look at our website, boyermanagement.com. You'll see some award-winning programs like Leading Through People and B2B Sales Essentials. There's a lot that we have to offer. Again, I'm Hank Boyer. You've been watching Leading Through People Best Practices. See you next time. Bye-bye. Have a great day.